so here we are back with the cow kit. I made, so you know, for the legs, arms, ears, and horns, you make 2 of everything. So I've already made 1 of each of those. So we're gonna start with the legs. So we're gonna start with color B, the lighter color, and we're gonna do a magic circle, and this time instead of doing 6 single crochet in the loop, we're gonna do 7. So I'm just gonna bring the tail of my yarn over my finger, hold onto the tail, grab my working yarn, bring it under the tail, turn my hook, and then pinch, switch hands, chain 1, and now I'm gonna do 7 single crochet into this loop. Okay, let's see. 7. All right, and we're gonna join to the beginning, which is the stitch right here, and we're just gonna slip stitch to join. That didn't catch both loops. We want to catch both loops. Okay, slip stitch to join. Now we are going to chain 1, 2 single crochet in each stitch around. So I'm going to do it just in this first one, and then I'll come back after I'm done the row. So into the first stitch that we slipped to, single crochet 1, single crochet 2, and 2 of those in each stitch around, not working into your join stitch or your chain stitch, and I will be back. Okay, so I've worked my 2 single crochet into my last stitch of the round here. Then we have the join and the chain 1. We're not working into either of those. We're just going to slip stitch to this first stitch here. And now I'm just going to tie down this end and weave it in. So I'm going to pull that loop up to give me some space. Go under a nearby stitch. Tie this down. And this time I'm just gonna leave it. I might trim it later if it's in the way. Okay, so now we have 2 rows of just single crocheting in each one in each stitch around. So okay, so this is the end of row 4, and you can see how it's curling toward me, but this inside is our right side and this is our wrong side, so you just want to curl that back the other way. And now we have for row 5 a chain 1, and then we have an instruction to do single crochet in the next 6 stitches and then an increase. So in the first stitch, 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh, gotta do that one, 5, 6, and then an increase, and then repeat that once. And then at the end of this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we'll do our increase in this stitch, and then this is our slip stitch to join, and this is our chain. So we're going to do this first single crochet in here, and then in the second one we're going to color change. So 1, and then for the second one, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up the loops. You have 2 loops on your hook, but then instead of completing that with that color, get your color A and find the end that somehow got lost, like they do. Aha, okay. And hook this yarn over your hook instead and pull it through both loops on your hook, like so. And then I like to tighten this down, and then we are going to join. So here again is our slip stitch from last time. Here's our chain. So we're going to join to here, and now this time our slip stitch to join and our chain will be in a different color. And then I'm just going to bring this end over, and I'm just going to do my first single crochet in this row around it. That's our first single crochet. And then I'm going to take this little end and this end here, and I'm just going to tie them together like so. And then after I tie them together, I will just trim this light color and set it aside. And these ends I'll just tuck in. Okay, so now we are doing a set of rows where we are just single crocheting in each stitch around. So it's 6 through 11. So I'm going to write my rows out. Okay, and I am just going to complete these rows, and then I'll be back after them. So each time you're just going to single crochet in each stitch around, join to the first single crochet of that previous round, chain 1, and then do it again for rows 6 through 11. Okay, so here we are after row 11. I did a stitch count check. We have 16 stitches, and this here, these little loops, this is our first row of the color change. So this is 6 here, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So now we are going to do a row where we repeat single crochet in the next 2 and then a decrease. So single crochet in this first, and then in this second, and then a decrease. So insert under the first, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert under the second, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook, and repeat that all the way around. And then join back to your first single crochet, not your slip stitch to join or your chain 1. So I'll finish that out and be back. Okay, next we just have a row of single crochet in each stitch around. And then the row after that, I'll come back and demonstrate the beginning of that. So I'm just going to do this single crochet around and I'll be back. Okay, so for this row, we are just alternating 1 single crochet and then a decrease all the way around. And then we'll have 2 rows of single crochet in each stitch around. So I will be back after finishing out this row and doing the next 2 rows of single crochet, or single crochet in each stitch around. Okay, so here we are at the end of row 16. So we have this little shaping up here to get a little smaller, and just gonna tighten down this slip stitch that I used to join, and I'm going to leave a tail for sewing it on. And here is our leg. Now I already made the other one, and when we get to the instructions later, it says to stuff them. So I'm just going to do that now. It has a little hint that you can use this side of your hook to help you get the stuffing. Oh, well, I threw my stuffing on the ground. Down in there. So you can just take this and kind of use it to push this in if you like. That's fine and all, and it works okay, but as my pinky fits in here, so I'm just going to use my pinky because I think it's easier. So we're going to stuff this not super firm. Let's see, where's my other one? Here's my other one. I want to kind of stuff them the same amount so that doesn't look crooked. Let's see. I'm packing it down a little. This probably will be, this rest will probably be enough. Okay, yeah, they look the same to me. So now we will move on to the arms. Okay, the arms are going to start really similarly to the legs, except for there'll be just one less single crochet. So we're going to magic circle. And then we are going to, this hook in particular does not grab this well for a magic circle. We are going to do 6 single crochet into the loop here. 3, 4, 5, 6. Tighten that up. So we'll count backwards. 2, 4, 6. Right here's our first stitch. So we're going to slip stitch to that. And then we're going to chain 1, and then we are going to 2 single crochet in each stitch around like we did before. So here in the first stitch, 1 single crochet, and then in the same stitch 2 single crochet, and then 2 in each stitch around until we get to our last stitch. That'll be it for a total of 12 single crochet. So I'll finish that out and be back. So I've just done the 2 single crochet in the last stitch of the row. Now this is my join stitch. This is my chain 1. So I'm going to slip stitch to first single crochet and then chain 1. Now for rows 3 through 19, we're just going to be chaining 1 and single crocheting in each stitch around. But in the last stitch of round 6, we're going to do a color change. So I will do rows 3 and through most of 6, come back for the color change, and then finish them out off camera. So I'll be back in row 6. Oh, and to remind myself of the color change, I just put a little mark next to the row 6 for when I mark it off, in case I forget. Speaking of forgetting, I'm going to tie this down before I continue, because after a few rows it'll be harder to reach. So go ahead and secure this end before you do all your repeated rows. These ones I'm just gonna tie them and leave the end in there as I go. So I'm about to start the last stitch of row 6. So I'm going to do the color change. So I'm going to insert yarn over, pull up a loop, drop my first color, hook my second color over my hook, pull through both loops on my hook, tighten that down, and then I'm going to go ahead and join to my first single crochet, chain 1, and do 1 single crochet around my tail to secure it a little. And like I did before, I'm just going to come down and tie these 2 ends together. then trim the lighter color and continue single crocheting each stitch around for the rest of the rows up through row 19. So that's row 6 completed. And now this is the last stitch of my previous round. This is my join, this is my chain. So when I get back, that'll be my last single crochet, and then I'll slip stitch to this first stitch here. So I'll be back after row 19. Okay, so here we are, end of row 19. So I'm just going to tighten down this slip stitch that I did, cut a tail for sewing, and stuff this arm basically the same way I stuffed the other one, and then we'll move on to the ears. Okay, so ears, we're going to be using color A, and the ears are pretty simple. They're just a small circle that we're going to fold in half. Now each of these, where you're making two, legs, arms, ears, and horn, I recommend making one right after the other, because then the closer you make it together, I feel like the more likely it is that your tension will be exactly the same and that they'll look like more identical. Where is my other end to this? I found it. It had fallen back inside. Okay, so we're just going to do a magic circle like we did earlier, and this time we are putting 8 single crochet into it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, tighten up, and we will join to our first single crochet. Under both loops, okay, with a slip stitch, then chain 1, and we are going to, in this stitch and every stitch around, single crochet 2, so 1, 2 in each stitch, and I'll be back after I finish this row out. Okay, so I'm going to join to my first stitch here. This is my join, this is my chain, so that's 16 stitches, 2 in each around. And then we are just going to chain 1 and then alternate a single crochet in the first stitch and an increase in the second all the way around. So I'll be back after that. Okay, so I'm going to join here the first single crochet and tighten that down to fasten off and leave a tail for sewing. And then I will tie this end down and weave it in. Let's see. Tighten that down good, and then I'm going to weave this end in and trim, because either way you see kind of both sides of the ears. This isn't like it's just an inside piece, so can't just leave this end floating around. Let's see, we'll do a couple more and then we'll trim it. So I'll trim that close down. All right, and so there's our ear, and when we put them on, they'll be kind of folded and sewed like that. And now we move on to the horn. Okay, so the horns. We are going to use color B still, and we're gonna do a magic circle again instead of the chain 2. And this time we are going to just do 4 single crochet into here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So this one is going to be just kind of harder to see things and tell what your stitches are, because they're going to be stretched out from working small stitches in a round like this. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So we are going to join to our first single crochet right here under both loops. But as we do that, we don't want this loop to get super big and stick out, but we kind of have to stretch across. So I'm going to kind of be folding this little tiny piece in half to get that stitch closer to us. So this is our stitch right here, and while holding it in half, if you aren't sure, you can still count 1, 2, and then that was 2 right there. This one on the side is 3, and then 4. So this part is just, this whole one is going to be kind of tight work and difficult to see. So we want to not let this loop get too big. So I'm gonna insert under here, and I'm probably gonna do this one loop at a time. And I'm using my nail in this case to help me get that loop onto my hook, and then yarn over and complete your slip stitch. Okay, so now we have 4 stitches in the round. Now I'm going to chain 1, and then it just wants us to single crochet in each stitch around. So here's our first stitch. 1. Here's our next stitch over here. 2. Then here 3. 4 here. This is 4. Now normally doing a row of single crochet around, I would just do it off, but this is so small and so kind of finicky that I'm just going to do the whole thing. So now before we join, I'm going to loosen this, turn this inside out for a moment, and I'm just gonna knot this down real quick, and then I will probably just trim the edge like pretty short. So I'm just gonna tie this off. And then trim it. And then turn it right side out again, right side facing. Okay. So now we are going to join. So we just worked into this stitch right here. We just worked into that one. Then we have our previous join and our chain here. So our first single crochet is all the way over here, which seems like literally half of the thing away. But if you count backwards, 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, we're kind of gonna fold this to get that stitch closer. Just tucking my tail out of the way right now. Okay, so again, this is the stitch that we just worked into. This is our join. This is our chain. This is the stitch over here that we want to slip to. And you can see how difficult it is to hold a piece this small and how you have to stretch across. So we're trying not to let this loop get too big, and we're just going to work our way under both loops of this stitch here, or we will fall out like that. Okay, just being really careful, and then slip stitch. All right, and chain one. Now in this first stitch, we're going to do an increase. So we're going to go back into the same stitch right here, do a single crochet, one, and then back into the same spot for a second single crochet. And then we are going to do single crochet in the next 3 stitches, which will finish out our row. So right here is our first single crochet. This tiny little bit left is the last of the stitch. So even though this kind of leans over and might look like we worked into that, if you pull it aside, you see that we haven't worked into this yet. So this is 1, 2, and then our next one is right here, not right here. 3. Okay. And then we have these loops right here are the loops of the stitch we just worked around. Those ones are. This is our slip stitch to join. And then this here is our chain. So this up here is our stitch that we want to join to. So I'm gonna, again, work my way under just those 2 loops carefully and complete that slip stitch. And then we have a row of single crochet in each stitch around. So here in this first one, 1, and I would during this part keep pretty careful count. 2, oh, that one didn't want to be a stitch. 2, 3 right here, 4, 5. Okay, so then we have our join again, our chain, so we're going to join to our first single crochet right here, slip stitch, and then chain 1. We're going to do another increase in the first stitch here, so 2 single crochet here, and then single crochet in the next 5. So here's our first here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. Then we have I skipped a row ahead, that's what I did. This is supposed to be single crochet in the next 4. Because that was our slip stitch to join. We were on row 5, not row 6. Okay. So now I'm going to join to the first single crochet, chain 1. Okay, so row 6 we have an increase in the first stitch, so 2 single crochet here, and then single crochet in the next 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right here, and then there's our join and our chain. So we'll join to our stitch up here. Okay. And then 7, we're going to do basically the same thing again, except for 6 single crochet instead of 5. So 2 in the first stitch, 1, 2, and then single crochet in the next 6. 1, 2, 3 right here, 4, 5, 6. And join to our single crochet. Oh, come on now. I guess we'll do this one loop at a time. Okay. And then row 8, which is our last, chain 1 and just single crochet in each stitch around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then 8 right here, and then there's our join and our chain. So we will slip stitch to this first single crochet, tighten it down to fasten off, and leave a tail. Okay, so that is the horn done. It's got this little curve to it from the increases, which is cute. And then next is the nose. Okay, so this is what we have left of color B, and both the nose and the tail are made in color B. I don't know how, I don't think they'll be very big. This isn't a very big cow. But hopefully we'll have enough. So for the nose, we are going to make a chain. So we're gonna make a slip knot first. I'm gonna bring my yarn around my thumb and then take my working yarn, pass it through the loop on my thumb, and then tighten down with the tail. And tighten that down on my hook. And then we are going to chain 6. So chain is just yarn over, pull through the loop on your hook, yarn over, pull through the loop on your hook. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6. Now it wants us to do 3 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So this is the first chain for my hook right here. This is the second chain for my hook. So we're going to go under this top loop right here, yarn over, pull up a loop for our single crochet. So 1 single crochet, and do it again, 2 single crochet, and now again in the same spot, 3 single crochet. then single crochet in the next 3 chains. So that's this one, and this one. So single crochet 1, single crochet 2, single crochet 3, and then let's see, let me move this where I can see it better. 3 single crochet in the last chain. So in here we'll do 1, 2, 3, like so. Then it wants us to turn and work on the opposite side of the chain. So we just worked into the top of the chain. Now we are going to turn this way and work into these loops of the chain. Okay, so it says that we want single crochet in the next 3 loops. So this loop here is the other half of the loop we already worked into, so we're going to go to the next one here. So we're going to work a single crochet into this second loop here. It looks like a little rope. So 1, then into this next one 2, and then here 3, and then it wants us to join for a total of 12 stitches. So this here is the top of our first single crochet, not this bit right here, but this is the top of our first single crochet here, and you can count backwards if you have trouble finding it. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So then it wants us to join. We're going to join to our first single crochet, which is this right here. Okay, so if you're not sure, you can count backwards. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then 12. So we're just going to slip stitch to this right here. For a total of 12 stitches. Then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to do 2 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So into the stitch where we joined, we'll do 2 single crochet, 1, 2, and the next one that caught a little bit of a loop that I didn't want to catch. 3, 4, and then 5, 6, then single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So we're basically doing increases here to get around the edge. Then along the flat part, 3 single crochet, 2, 3, and then again 2 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and again this is our right side facing us here, so we want to make it curl back the other way. And then single crochet again in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3. This is such a tiny little nose. And then there's our join, and there's our chain. So we're going to join to here, like so. Chain 1, and then rows 3 and 4 are just a single crochet in each stitch around. So this first stitch here, then 1 in each stitch around, except for our join and our chain. So I will do those 2 rows and be back. Okay, so I'm at the end of row 4. And I'm going to do a count real quick. So we're going to count starting with the stitch that we joined to. But when we get back around, we're not going to count this stitch because that's our join. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 in our join. So we got the right amount of stitches. Now we'll fasten off, leave a tail for sewing, and I will weave this end in a little and trim it, and then we will start the tail. Okay, so this is what we have left of color B, and I really don't see that making all of this. However, the tail fringe is supposed to be in color A, except here on the box, this is definitely color B in the tail fringe. I can't see the rest of the tail that well, but it does look like it's more like color A. And if they're definitely supposed to be done in different colors, because the tail is done with one color, color B, and the tail fringe is done with color A. And this is definitely the same as the feet. This is B here. I'm thinking that this is a mistake, and that the tail is supposed to be worked with color A, which we have this much left of, and the fringe is supposed to be worked with color B. So I'm going to operate on that assumption, since we do not have enough of this to make the tail anyway. So we are going to do this with color A instead of color B, and we are going to start with a magic circle as soon as I untangle this. So I figure I'll just show you. Sometimes the reason that the yarn, so this is all fuzzy, the reason that it gets tangled isn't because it's actually tangled, but these little threads come off and they wrap themselves around the yarn. They basically like tie them together. I hope you can see there's literally a little band of yarn here, of little threads that have come off and wrapped themselves around. So sometimes, like I have some, there's one here, right there, and one here. I will very carefully, see those threads? Trim those with scissors, or just break them. Sometimes I'll just pull on them, because the yarn isn't actually really tangled. It's just caught up by little threads. It seems we have another typo here, because this says chain 2, 6 single crochet in the second chain from the hook, 8 stitches. But then single crochet in each stitch around is supposed to be 8 stitches, and then after a decrease we're supposed to have 6 stitches. So this is supposed to be an 8. You're supposed to do 8 single crochet. I will do a magic circle because I like them better. Which we've done a bunch of these by now, but slip stitch to secure, and then 8 single crochet into the loop here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now the instructions for the fringe call for us to do something with round 3 later. So I would place a stitch marker in round 3 when we get there to keep track of it. So 2, 4, 6, 8. Join to your first single crochet, under both loops, please. Thank you. Okay, with a slip stitch, then chain 1. So now rows 2 through 5, we're just single crocheting in each stitch around. But I'll come back on round 3 and leave a marker so that we can more easily find round 3 later. So I'll be back in a row. In this case, to join, I'm going to do kind of similar with the horn, where I'm going to fold it up a little because we just worked into this stitch. That's our join and that's our slip, but we want to slip stitch to this stitch right here without stretching out that loop too much. So slip stitch. Now this is row 3 that I'm starting, so I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to do my first single crochet, and then I'm just going to grab a stitch marker and place it into this first stitch here so that we know where round 3 is for later. And now I'm just going to continue single crochet around up through row 5. So I'll be back after that. Okay, so this is after row 5, and I turned this inside out and tied down my end and trimmed it, and then turned it back right side out. Here's our marker for row 3, and now we are going to do 1 row here, row 6. We'll chain 1, and then we are going to single crochet in the next 2. So 1, 2, and then do a decrease. So insert under the first, and then the second, pull over, pull through all 3 loops, and then just repeat that. Another decrease to finish out this row, and then I will join. We now have just 6 stitches, so join to our first single crochet here, not our slip stitch or chain. And then for the rest of the rows 7 through 18, it's just single crochet 1 in each stitch around, so I will do that and be back. Okay, so here we are at the end of row 18. I'm just tightening this off, and I will cut it and leave a small tail for sewing. And now we have to add the fringe. So we need 16 3-inch pieces of this color. So we are going to measure and cut these. Let me grab a tape measure. Okay, I couldn't find a ruler, so we'll use this. I'm gonna measure these ones unstretched, so I guess I'll do it this way. Just gonna lay it along there like that and just trim here. And we just need 16 of these. So I'm just gonna keep doing this until I have 16, and then I'll be back. I laid my yarn out over on that side so that I can just kind of trim and then pull, etc. Okay, so now we take the tail, and it says to insert hook through a stitch on round 3, fold a yarn piece over in half, pull a loop through, then pull through both ends and tighten. That's basically just the fringe technique. So it wants us to repeat around, adding fringe to each stitch on rounds 3 and 4. Okay, so we're supposed to start in round 3. So this is row 1, row 2. We marked with a stitch marker where row 3 is. Oh, that's not what's supposed to happen. These loops here are the side of the stitch. So I'm gonna start here in this stitch, and I'm gonna go under where those 2 loops are. So I'm inserting my hook, and then I'll take a piece of the yarn, fold it in half on my hook, try to make the edges even, and then bring that under and then yarn over both of these ends and pull them through the loop all the way through, and then tighten down a little. So that's one, and we'll go under both loops here. This next stitch, this little bar behind it, take another one, try to make sure they're even. So pull that through, and then we're gonna keep doing this all the way around for row 3. And we're also gonna do the same thing for row 4. So I'll come back after row 3 is done. Okay, so I'm almost at the end of this row. And here we have our join ridge basically. So I just did one around the last stitch. And then over here we have the first stitch. So this one right here is where my join is. It doesn't really matter, you're just putting 8 on each one. But I'm going to take my stitch marker out now. And here's my my last stitch of this round. And then after we do this one, we'll go up around and do the same thing on round 4. Okay, so there's those. And now we'll just go up 1 to right here and do 1 in each of these stitches around of our next row. Okay, so I'm going to start right here. Also, if you do somehow, you know, you mess something up and you want to take them out, you literally just pull this loop and it'll all come out. And then next one right here, and I'm just going to keep doing this around this row until this row is done, then I'll be back. Okay, so I just did the last one for 4. So now we got all these pieces sticking out like this. And now we fray the ends. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm just going to go into each one of these. I'm going to, as I go around, I am going to just tug pretty good to tighten them down well, like so. And then I will take this and just start going into the yarn and separating it like this, each strand all the way around. Now how much you want to do this is kind of like to your taste, how frayed you want it to look. And we are gonna trim this so it won't be quite this long, just like that, all the way around. So I will do that and then be back. Okay, so here we are, and basically really all I did was separate the yarn into its 4 strands, and now we trim. So it looks like there's kind of a decent length on there. I don't want to trim off too much, and this is kind of going to be to your preference too, except we do want enough to cover the end of the tail. So I'll just let's see, I'll put my fingers at the end of the tail so we know how much extra we have, and I'll probably just trim off let's say this little bit here. This is probably about a 1/4 inch, and we'll see how that looks first. I mean, I think that looks pretty good. It's about bigger than could go a little smaller, I guess, but I don't know. I kind of like it like that. Maybe a little bit smaller. So I'll just do this again. And just give this a little bit more of a trim. Being very careful not to cut myself. These scissors are sharp. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so with that is all of the pieces completed. And that's gonna be the end of this one. And tomorrow I should be able to do assembly. But yeah, that's it for this one, for this little cow, and we should be able to finish this up tomorrow. So I hope this is helpful, and see you guys next time.